I'm still on a high from that dominant Jokic performance, and I was excited to have new life in this series, and then my life was flashing before my eyes, so...
The Nuggets targeted Harden. Apparently, they ran Harden through 16 off-ball screens, which is the most that he's had to guard this season. Jamal screening done, and Zubac's AG is screening Harden to get Jokic a movement three in the corner, because these are the kinds of things that you can do when you have Nikola Jokic on your team.
When I saw this play, I thought, yeah, it makes sense because Jokic is such a good three-point shooter. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, wait a second. Do you guys understand how insane this is?
Yeah, it's insane. Casually running a movement shooting set for a 7-footer. And the reason that MPJ wants to play, this could be their last series playing together. We're going to lay it all out there. You know, it is a bit of a last dance situation. Oh my God, I'm like tearing up. Welcome back to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing today, Will?
Still on a high from that dominant Jokic performance and that win, even though I had a pit in my stomach watching the fourth quarter. I think if we lost that, I would have felt worse than losing game 7 against the Wolves last year, which seems weird because it wasn't an elimination game, but I was just like so certain we were going to win that game, and I was excited to have new life in this series, and then my life was flashing before my eyes. So
that fourth quarter was giving a bit of PTSD. I haven't talked about this much because after that game 7, I believe our next show, like, we wrapped up the series, and I think we did our Mavs Wolves series preview, and there was just a lot of suppressed memories for me out of that game 7 against the Wolves. And so I was watching this fourth quarter wondering, I wonder if this is what the Wolves did too, because I actually just legitimately don't remember the midway through the third quarter of that series and on. I was just like, okay, there were missed shots, and I remember the Ant steal on Jamal and the breakaway dunk, and then obviously the Rudy turnaround. But everything in between that, which is like normal because normal people don't just like remember every play and whatever. But we didn't dive deep because it was like, well, the series is over. Mm-hmm. This was sad and shameful and all of that. But we didn't dig into it.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about that game. But
so I'm actually really happy that they won this game so that it wasn't too painful to actually talk about everything that went wrong after everything that went right. But yeah, no, I feel you on the pit in the stomach, just everything. I was just like,
going down 3-1, we've come back before, but I would not count on it in this series as much as I want to believe in.
Especially after losing game 4. If they'd lost game 4, if they'd lost it like that.
Yeah, that to lose that, and oh God. I think we might have responded and after losing it like that and played hard. I don't think we would have given up, but yeah, it's heartbreaking. And I think about that on the Clippers side too, how they feel about it, but we can talk about that for sure.
Yeah, we definitely can, because I have been poring over other fan pods, especially Clippers pods, just as the playoffs are proceeding, to get different perspectives on all these different teams, and I've got some stuff to report for sure. Okay, a couple of quick programming notes before we jump into things. We will be back after the series ends to do our review, regardless of who wins, and preview the second round matchup with OKC and make our prediction bracket. Because I actually think, even though OKC is substantially better than both of these teams, there will be some interesting matchup questions regardless of who advances to the next round out of this series. And then at that point, there will only be 4 series going on in the playoffs, so we'll probably cover this one or whichever one is in this bracket, and then one other series in depth in terms of breaking things down as things get even more intense. But I would say we've had a pretty good first round of the playoffs this year, Will. Wouldn't you? Would you agree?
No.
You would not agree?
I think it's
No, I'm not talking about
trash.
Denver. I just mean in terms of entertainment value. If you ignore most of the East.
I think all the series have been
the Orlando
bad.
Magic are making the Celtics work a little bit, and
Yeah, I mean the Knicks Pistons has produced
Yeah,
some
Knicks
close
Pistons too.
games, so that's
Knicks gave us
cool.
I think Knicks gave us the best series of the playoffs last year in round one against the Sixers, so they can't help themselves either.
Yeah, I mean I guess the Lakers and Wolves had closer games, but
They've had some close
and
finishes
Rockets
for
and
sure.
Warriors had a fun one the other day.
I think it's
But
better than round one last year.
that could be. I
Like
barely even
round one
remember.
last year, we had Knicks Sixers, then Nuggets Lakers, and then I don't even remember the other series. Like
Yeah.
there
Well,
was Mavs Clippers, but
Thunder and
like half those
Grizzlies.
games were like blowouts. It was weird. It was very like
Hmm.
Nuggets Bulls round two.
Well, Cavs Heat was definitely not as interesting as I was. Well, I didn't think it'd be interesting, but I was hoping it'd be more a little bit more competitive. And then Bucks, Pacers. The Pacers are cool, but I mean, the Bucks are in a sad state.
Absolutely. So please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really helps us out with the algorithm as we try to grow the channel. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the playoffs. I think we can get there. I checked last night. Well, we're at 884. So for everybody watching, we're trying to get to 900 before round two. Can we get there? With just
Maybe.
16. If just 16 of you subscribe to the channel, we can get to 900 subs before round two of the playoffs. I think we can do it. Let's get into actual basketball. We're through 4 games right now. Series is tied at 2-2. What are your overall takeaways from this series in terms of which team is better,
Hmm.
things that have continued to surprise you, or like has anything that you thought about the series beforehand been confirmed as it's gone on? Because we talked last episode about things that surprised us.
I think the Clippers are a better team if you talk about just the amount of players that they
Mm,
have. It's just
yeah.
they just as a collective, they just have more to go to and more to play with, and we have way less because we can barely play more than 5 people, unfortunately. But it's the classic question of is how much can Jokic carry us, and he did in the last game, and it's just how many times can he do that? We only need 2 more times, which is a lot. But if you think about the whole season and how Jokic had these insane numbers, his most productive season from a stat standpoint, Nuggets fans are quick to point out how that likely means that the other people on the team are not contributing as much because Jokic has to score more, he has to do more, touch the ball more. He still like gets his assists, of course, because that's just how he plays. But so it's not necessarily surprising that this series reflects that too, where you just kind of have to hope that Jokic goes God mode and takes over games. And I think that we were doubting his ability to do that because of
In this
Zubats
series, yeah.
and all the Clippers defense we've been talking about and what they're taking away. And we know that Jokic can settle for threes against them, whereas sometimes we just need to get paint points, but they've been crowding the paint. But in this last game, there were just times where Jokic was just like pushing his way in there and scoring with Zubats all over him, and it looked ugly as hell, but he still got it. I'm hoping it's not a situation where after that amazing game 6 versus the Wolves, where it was like Rudy one on one
Game
and
five.
oh yeah, game 5
Game
where
six
he was
was not amazing.
dominating. Yeah, I'm hoping he doesn't have that like drop off from the effort that he put forth.
I agree with you for sure. We were doubting his ability to have like a takeover game or moment in this particular series because it seemed like a tougher matchup for him with Zubats and all of that. I don't know that this is like anywhere close to that game 5, to be honest. He had an amazing,
Oh yeah,
I think he was really good in the first half, and then he was amazing in the third quarter. The fourth quarter, we're going to talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's different. We're going to talk a little bit about like maybe why he couldn't take over in the fourth quarter, but also what are the things that we could have done to put him in a position to do that.
I'm hoping it's a good thing
Yeah.
because we kind of coasted in the fourth, so it wasn't like he was putting
Yeah.
this crazy effort up all game in every
Right.
single second.
I
But
agree. Like
they
I
may
still
just be
don't think
coping.
that we've gotten like this was the first game where I was like, oh, this is like a really good Jokic game. Like fourth, like not fourth quarter aside, because he still had moments in that fourth quarter late that we will talk about. But the first 3 games of this series, we were still waiting for like to feel like Jokic was really controlling the game. That's one thing about this series I talk about this in one of my group chats that Jokic has these amazing stat lines all the time, right? Like it doesn't matter what the defense is. And sometimes you have to look at the efficiency, but even then sometimes like, oh, he's like 50% from the field, but sometimes you're even in those games you're like, "Oh, when did he get that?" To see how well a team guarded Jokic, you're like, what was Denver's offensive rating with Jokic on the floor? Right? That is usually how I judge it. And it actually wasn't like amazing in this game, but this was one of the better ones. I think it was like a 115 or something. But it had been way lower throughout the series, like 109, 110. And really, it would have been in like the 130s without that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like if we go to the third quarter of this game, which is when he completely took over, like this was an amazing Jokic quarter. Denver had a 152 offensive rating in that quarter, right? So that's the thing is like he's the maestro of this offense. It's not just his scoring efficiency. It's not just the assist to turnover. It's when the buckets come in the first place, right? Like timely buckets, timely passes. And he did have a couple of ones that, saved us from a certain calamity in this game. But that third quarter was just full on takeover. I actually think his defense outside of the first quarter of game one has been really good in this series. And we talked about, you're the one that mentioned it, and I completely agreed with you about how much that is impacting both him and Jamal on offense, and just not having like the energy to work offense the way that they work offense and still, defend at the level that they have been for most of this series, really. And so that's my main, like, this is the thing that continues to surprise me in this series. A lot of people are talking about how much harder Denver is working than the Clippers in this series. Because you could look at like, oh, Clippers have all these players. Denver doesn't play as many guys, and just assess like which team is better, which team should win the series that way. But some people are taking the approach of saying one of these teams seems to be working a lot harder than the other one to find success. Right. And I think that's true generally for Denver on offense. Even though they have been playing good defense in this series, I do think the offense comes a little bit easier to the Clippers than the Nuggets right now. And that has, I stand by everything that I've said about the Clippers offense before this series and during this series. There's a reason that Denver is able to play good defense on this team, is because they are pretty limited offensively for the most part. We'll talk about game 3 though. Denver's offense has been in the mud throughout most of this series, right?
I think Clippers have more options on offense, and the Nuggets have guys who, while can be weapons, have just not been as threatening.
I don't know if you saw this stat, but Russ is the only bench player for the Nuggets that has made a 3 in the series.
Oh, man. Yeah, P-Watt hasn't hit one. Oh, Pickett not hitting one. Oh,
Pickett
hit one. Unless he had his foot on the line and it was a 2.
I think that was the foot on. I remember the shot. It was the foot on the line. I remember it. Yeah.
It was after, like,
I think it was like game 2.
He stole it. Someone stole it from Harden. And
Yeah. I remember the shot. It was foot on the line. That game, there were 3 Nuggets that hit foot on the line, would have been 3s. It was Jokic, Christian, and Pickett in that game. I was just like, what is going on here? We lost that game by 3, by the way. But yes. So Russ is the only bench player who has hit an actual 3 in the series. And obviously the Clippers have had Bogdanovich hit 3s. I think Derrick Jones Jr. finally hit a 3 in the series. And they probably aren't getting like that many outside of those guys. Because the other bench players... Oh, Batum. Oh my God. No, Nicholas Batum has been... Never mind. White hot.
Yeah.
Like with the intensity of 1,000 suns from behind the 3-point arc in this series. In the season, he's their best 3-point shooter. I think he's shooting over 50% on his catch and shoot 3s.
They just have more chances to have someone else be shooting.
Be the guy. And Batum has already had, I think, that game. Game and a half, really, between He was amazing in game 2. I thought he was really, really good in game 3. He was great in game 1 too, but obviously the Nuggets took that one. So I agree with that. More chances to have somebody else be the guy. And it's not because they have a couple more guys than us, but that is ending up being the difference between having all of our starters play over 40 minutes in a game. And here's another one for you. Kawhi. He's only played 40 plus minutes in one game. It was game 1, which went to overtime. Which is huge for him, right? Like he missed half the season with his knee stuff and is 33.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that Harden has been like the, kind of workhorse of this, but even after having to carry the team through the regular season, but that's just, what it is.
It's a good formula if the Clippers want to go on a postseason run. Limiting Kawhi's minutes in the first series is just, this is a tough series, so you may have to play him more to close it out if you're the Clippers, but what does that do to you long term? I mean, I think both of these teams are just, I think both are working hard. It's hard to really differentiate. I mean, maybe just by the fact that the Nuggets have less depth, you can argue that the starters have to work harder and play more.
Yeah. My question is is that even a bad thing? Because my reaction whenever I see people talking about Denver's been working harder in this series, well, obviously not a bad thing because it's gotten them 2 wins. But also, I watched this team not give a shit for 82 games. It's actually nice, frankly, as a fan, to watch them try so hard in these games, mistakes aside. That's different because going into these playoffs, and especially we'll talk about game 3 after game 3, where I'm is this just the team that they were in the regular season again? I was just am I going to be talking about effort for the next 5 or 6 games because they're not going to make it longer in this series? Or am I going to get to talk about okay, the effort was there. Let's talk about the execution. Let's break down X's and O's, which is what you hope to get out of the NBA playoffs in a good year.
The effort and the intensity should be a given.
Yeah.
But it is a question with the team, unfortunately. And I'm with you where I don't really want it to be an issue or anything we talk about. But I think back to
because that's
series.
Boring. It's just we've been talking about this all season. Why is this still an issue? Do these guys care? That's the kind of thing that gets your head coach fired with 3 games left in the season, right?
Well, I think back to the series preview and how you said that the series was in Denver's hands. And I think that through these 4 games, I would still agree with that, because when they do put in the intensity like we saw in game 4, at least, you can see that they clearly have a chance, specifically with Jokic. I don't think Jokic has been sandbagging at all, but just the level at which Jokic and the aggressiveness that he showed in game 4 is different than the other games. And that's not a knock on Jokic. It's just how it is. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to muster that in these last 3 games to win 2 of them if they go to game 7. But if they can win. They can win the games. It's just a matter of if they're going to be able to. I think there is execution details like that. At this point, they probably
game 2
know.
Was the effort was clearly there in game 2. That's not what we talked about in our last show, right? But it was execution and it's 20 turnovers, So let's jump into the actual games. Game 3, big fat L. And this is actually why I had the "is it Jover" note, because after game 3, I thought, it's an 83-117 loss. I was oh my God, can we please not get to the same number that the Timberwolves got us in game 6, where they won by 46 or whatever it was. After that game, I was this team looks despondent, right? Because it was following the heartbreaker game 2, right? Half of the games in this series, more 3/4 of the games in this series have been heartbreakers for one team or the other. They actually came out strong in this game. Again, they've started all of these games strong except for game 1, which is interesting because they won game 1. They started out strong in game 2. They started out strong in game 3. They started out strong in game 4. Like good first quarters, right? For the most part.
And as soon as that bench comes in,
As soon as the bench came in,
disaster.
I would say like as soon as the first subs came in with Jokic.
Those first like stagger stints.
Yeah, were a disaster. I will say defensively, though, even though they came out strong, it was more offensive. They let the game turn into a shootout pretty early. And then in that third quarter, especially when they stopped making shots, the Clippers kept making shots and they looked very comfortable. The Clippers did offensively. And they kept, they brought Jokic back in the fourth quarter to try to make a last push or maybe try to figure something out. The Clippers defense, I didn't think that it was anything special the Clippers were doing defensively from games 1 and 2, to be completely honest with you. Like, I didn't see any differences in scheme.
Yeah,
we were just like getting pushed off our spots. It was very reminiscent of the Wolves series last year, the early half of the Wolves series.
I just think that's why everyone was concerned. I mean, if you're a Nuggets fan who still believed in the team after that, that's totally fair. It's not like you had to give up. It just felt so oppressive.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything super special. We just like looked like we had no answers. Looked like we kind of were giving up. Just like didn't really fight back after that
Especially offensively, like the Clippers were just kicking our butts. And we threw out so many different coverages between the third and fourth quarter. We tried trapping. We tried drop. We tried a 2-3 zone. We tried a 1-2-2. 2-2-1. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Zone nerds. I know CT's watching this right now. But the level of intensity and execution wasn't there. So like we talked about how overall it's been there for Denver. It was not there in this game in like after not it wasn't even after that first quarter, because like we said, they started out strong offensively, but defensively it just wasn't there the entire game. And it was the starters and the bench. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, the bench just like stunk offensively again, right? We haven't really had like a breakout bench game in this series. We got 5 bench points in that game, including 3 from Russ, who I think made a 3 before he went out with his foot sprain.
You know, the Nuggets always play better with the backs against the wall. You think about the bubble Nuggets. We didn't do that against the Wolves in Game 7, but Game 7s are, I think, a different type of animal because both teams had the backs against the wall. Is different. We both said we thought the series was going to come back to Game 5 tied, but I thought it would be that the Nuggets would have won Game 3 and lost Game 4 because I thought they would have responded after losing that home game in Game 2, but it was just kind of the opposite. I think they needed to like kind of get their ass kicked to like really like get their head in the game in a way.
We should say that, you know, MPJ sprains his shoulder after Game 2 or in Game 2, and he does end up playing in both Games 3 and 4. And I wouldn't say he was the issue in Game 3, but he wasn't the solution. He had a good Game 4. Oh my gosh, we gave up a 133. We had a 133 defensive rating in Game 3. It was just so bad on that end of the floor. And, you know, you talked about how we expected a split. I think I would have felt differently about this series if they'd won Game 3 and lost Game 4. Because, well, maybe not, but I think the manner in which they lost Game 3 was very jarring, right? Because it was this huge blowout where the defensive effort isn't there, where we're just, I think Adelman called it chasing, trying to find answers. And I actually went on the Dime pod with Josh Rodriguez after that game and was like, I do not know what this team is going to look like as the series progresses. And I thought they'd probably win one more game and then the Clippers would close it out in 6. In 6, yeah. I'm not sure that I feel totally differently right now, despite what was a pretty heroic effort from, I think, the starters, I have to say, in Game 4, because we didn't really play our bench for most of it. Well, you never play your bench most of it, but for much of it, and we didn't have Russ in that game.
I still held strong to the Nuggets in 7 pick that I had for our predictions, even after that loss. Maybe against my better judgment, because, a loss like that signals something's up.
Like
And I know
internal problems.
Yeah, and a lot of experts were, like, oh man, like we heard Matt Moore say they're not getting out of this series on Locked On, which is cool for people who, they work in analytics and they're trying to be accurate. It's like I don't blame anyone for thinking the Clippers had the series after seeing a loss that badly, especially with
Can I tell
how
you
close.
why I disagree with Matt Moore, though?
Sure.
Even though I am starting to flip my pick on the series, it's because his assessment of where the where this series stands has to do with strengths of the Clippers that I don't believe in, at all. That's the reason that this series is tied.
Yeah, you are still skeptical of the
I'm
Clippers'
still
competency.
so skeptical of the Clippers. I think that they've looked competent defensively because of the limitations that our roster has on offense. And I think they're a good defense. Don't get me wrong. I gave the Clippers defense tons of plaudits on the last show, especially because of, what they've been able to do in this series to hold Denver's offense down, even with, in particular with stifling Jokic, until this game 3. But my assessment changing to I think the Clippers could probably close this out, even though now it becomes a best of 3 series, right? Like you said, either team just needs to win 2 out of 3, which is why it's more likely now that it goes to game 7. But my thing is if the Clippers have one more game 2 and then the Nuggets just have another despondent game, that's over. I just see more ways for the Nuggets to lose this series now than for the Clippers to lose this series.
Yeah, the ways that the Nuggets have won, as exciting and fun as it is, and I'm so happy, they're very close. It's almost a miraculous way that we won game 4.
We could be up 3-1 right now. We could also be swept. That's how close the wins are. This is the kind of series that I never felt this way at all in either Lakers series the last 2 years.
Yeah, I still felt like
sweep. It was a close gentleman's sweep. It's no, this is this is what an actual close series feels like.
I don't know if it's because I saw the Nuggets be very inconsistent all season long that it's just
that's true.
It's not too surprising to me we did get beat in a blowout loss. I would have been way more shocked if the Nuggets beat the Clippers in a blowout loss.
Which this game almost was, to be fair.
Yeah. I was stoked
in game 4,
but I was are the Clippers? They're so overconfident after that win and kind of complacent, and we finally had a game.
Overly critical of the Nuggets and not giving them enough credit for what they did to create a blowout win environment before the fourth quarter.
And we finally had the game where Chris Dunn wasn't shooting very well, and even Batum wasn't shooting as well as he had been. That was a deliberate choice by the Nuggets to aggressively help off Dunn. And keep that going, even though Dunn has hit threes. It just wasn't there that game. I think Jokic, he said after game 3 as well, that the Clippers just were taking away what they're good at. And I thought Jamal did shoot well in game 3, even though his defense was terrible. I was like, okay, Jamal's shot is there. So we still have a chance to do something in this series.
Yeah,
it was funny that
the Jamal game. That's the kind of game that could turn into an easier blowout.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the other half of this offense, right? Or I would say about 30%. Because in a game where Jamal is just normal efficiency and Jokic is his MVP caliber self, that's a 120 plus offensive rating in those minutes. We haven't been getting that because Jamal has been largely inefficient he's been inefficient in our wins. He's been efficient in our losses.
He didn't have a good game 4 from
from a scoring perspective.
From his shot, he was 5 of 17 or something. It was bad, but
it was bad.
Yeah, I don't know. You just never really know what's going to happen. But Jokic did come out in game 4, and for someone who is so cerebral and has a command of the game to say in game 3 they took away what we did well, and then he comes out and just does what he does and did what we saw. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I just was surprised at how
late it's come in the series.
Maybe not, but just I just think like with the lack of depth and seeing how injured we are too with Mike and AG, just to like expect that even Jokic going into carry mode, you do wonder, can we still win with that? And we only won by 2 points.
Well,
He just has to do it two more
we'll talk
games.
about the fourth quarter, but that was the one where they took Jokic out of the action. I think if he had still been involved, this is a comfortable victory.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this game, they came out strong again, like we talk about, defensively especially. The close to the first half was really like the most concerning portion of this game outside of the entire fourth quarter because they'd played so well. I think they had multiple opportunities to push their lead out to double digits and teens to close the half. Missed those opportunities. Again, it's like this transition offense. Like when the transition offense is clicking, that's when we blow games open. Like that's what happened in the third quarter. But in that close to the half, we missed multiple opportunities, and then the Clippers were able to make shots. And then at the end of the half, they got into a bit of a scuffle that resulted in six players getting technical fouls and nobody getting ejected, thankfully. We have to thank Ivica Zubac for keeping Aaron Gordon from getting ejected for going after James Harden. I have to say, I think Harden would have been ejected also if Zubac, and probably hurt if Zubac hadn't held AG back because he looked just like actually ready to rumble there. That was a really interesting situation, I gotta say, because it seemed like everybody was jumping to Christian's defense, and then I think like Harden like maybe like kind of poked Jokic in the chest, like literally, and that's when AG sort of snapped into enforcer mode. We don't really get to see that often from AG, but when it happens, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a big dude. We saw it a bit in the title year when he was kind of getting under LeBron's skin a little bit, trying to do the mind gamesy things, which is funny because it's like AG, like that is just so like counter to his personality. Bench still stunk in this game. So we talked about Russ didn't play in this game. He's the only bench player who's made a 3 in this series. And Peyton Watson's finishing. Like, Peyton Watson, I don't even know if he might have attempted like 1-3 in this series. So it's whatever if he's not making them. But the number of layups that he is missing in this series is like, I want to say shocking, but it's not. We had that stretch early in the season where it's like Peyton is shooting 80% at the rim right now for the first couple months of the season. And then that just stopped.
Yeah.
He just completely cratered. And I think I think post All-Star, he was like 50% at the rim. So multiple missed layups as well from Peyton Watson, especially. I've seen a lot of people talking about how he's probably not the most disappointing player in this series because we don't really necessarily expect something or much from a player who's getting his first like serious playoff rotation minutes. But this season, it just feels like Peyton doesn't necessarily do anything better than he did last year, which was effectively his rookie season because his actual rookie year was a redshirt year.
I know it's hard because he's still so young. His offensive game is not there yet. He flashes on defense. I thought it'd be more of a factor this series, being able to play him more. And he has moments where he
hasn't been bad defensively, but you haven't necessarily like noticed him either.
If Kawhi scores on him, he still gets a good contest in there, and it's like, Kawhi's Kawhi, so
yeah,
you don't hold that against him. But still,
like he's not playing so well that you're like, oh, this is someone we need to play lots of minutes on the floor, right?
Like if we had lost the last game and we're just down and out in this series, like, man, like I'm already like low on PWA. I'm not declaring anything about his future with the team and such, but like it could be really bad how I'm viewing him in his fit on this team at this point if we were losing. Somebody
was like, Peyton Watson is this team Zeke Naji, but nobody's ready for that conversation. Oh, I'm like, oh God. This team Zeke Naji is
he doesn't literally have the contract of Zeke, so
that's true.
Let's stop. But yeah.
All right. So, but let's talk about the things that we did well. All right. Last episode, we talked about how much they'd been targeting Harden on the ball, right? Getting that switch. So Jamal could attack him in pick and roll, attacking him directly in pick and roll with AG for sure. And a little bit of off ball stuff as well, where he had Jokic, handling and in some inverted pick and roll. But I was actually perusing the Clippers fans sphere, and they talked about how much the Nuggets targeted Harden in off-ball screens in this game. So I did my third rewatch of this game to look at that specifically. Apparently, they ran Harden through 16 off-ball screens, or did that 16 times in this game, which is the most that he's had to guard this season. It wasn't just AG, but whenever he was guarding AG, he was being put through these screens. So I wanted to go through a couple of these possessions. So the first one, if you could bring up the Jokic movement 3. So we've got a double stagger here where Jamal screening Dunn and Zubats kind of, and AG is screening Harden to get Jokic a movement 3 in the corner, because these are the kinds of things that you can do when you have Nikola Jokic on your team. So Harden can't jump out and contest. Dunn actually gets around and gets a contest, but Jokic just waits or pump fakes and gets this shot.
Man, when I saw this play, I thought, yeah, it makes sense because Jokic is such a good 3-point shooter. And
we did, one of the first times I saw this season was in that second game of the year against the Clippers. And I remembered it when I was doing the film for this series preview. We ran a lot of stuff to get Jokic threes in that game.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. They're kind of like flare screens. Jokic he's running towards the ball, but they're setting the screen so he can get an open shot. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, wait a second, do you guys understand how insane this is?
Yeah, it's insane. We're just just casually running a movement shooting set for a 7-footer.
Really think about Jokic being a center. I mean, we know it's Jokic, so it's not surprising, but when you look at it, and this is the kind of thing that you can do for Jokic, it's just incredible.
Just another example of Will being so much more correct than I was this summer about the importance of Jokic's shot to being the best in the world, because his team needs this from him right now, right? This team
I couldn't have even expected that.
Doesn't shoot yeah. This team doesn't shoot threes. And as it turns out, Zubats is one of the best Jokic defenders in the world. But here, he can't get through a screen, and even Chris Dunn running out at him wasn't able to bother that shot enough. Incredible player. I just completely incredible player. He actually went 3 of 6 from 3 in this game, so nice healthy percentages. I was really worried about the shot down the stretch of the season because it had cratered post All-Star. It was 32%, I think, down the stretch of the season, but he's been shooting well in this series.
He's allowed to have one little month of a slump, especially with how well he's shot it.
He's absolutely allowed to do that. But
and he hit that crazy buzzer beater 3, and we only won that game by 2.
Jokic has an addiction to shooting end of quarter heaves and end of quarter shots, right? So we ran another movement set for him at the end of was it the second quarter?
Yeah, I think.
So it was the end of the half of this game. He runs out to 45 feet. Zubats goes out to contest, and he just completely squares up and cashes it. All right, let's go to more of picking on Harden. So the CB driving layup. So here, Harden gets lost off ball. He's kind of, and we get, he kind of misses it the first time, but gets the rebound. But here it's just Harden kind of guarding nobody.
Yeah, it's are you going to be effective being on Jokic? I get it because it's Jokic,
right. But... So Christian drifting, and Zubats is already there. Zubats is there. They've got Dunn, they've got Zoo there. Harden's just oh yeah, Christian's behind me, but he's not, because he's drifting and able to. This is the kind of stuff that we thought would happen in this series, with CB getting lots of points off cuts.
Yeah,
Harden's going to be guarding him, and yeah.
It's a Harden off ball, just not staying active and focused, getting back cut. it happened in this game for
And to be
sure.
fair,
So
this possession started off as a switch. He didn't start it on Christian, but he switched onto him when when Jamal initiated that action, and Christian was like, okay, guard that guy.
it's going to be a weak link, you'd think, for the Clippers defense. So I'm glad we're exploiting it some,
Yeah,
you know.
because they're definitely picking on ours too. All right, let's go to the MPJ 3. MPJ was amazing in this game, knocked down all his shots. So in this one, Harden is guarding MPJ, but then he tells Chris Dunn to kind of peel switch onto MPJ here. And he's like, I'll take Harden. And that's when Jokic gets the opening for that pass. And this is still a great contest from Dunn, but this is the MPJ we know and love and really, really need in this series, even though he has one arm.
Yeah, MPJ said after the game that he was making a point to shoot no matter if a guy was close to him or not. And we know that Mike can shoot contested threes. He's tall. That's like a unique aspect of his game, able to shoot and release high and shoot over anyone. And I'm glad that he did that, especially for someone who, like he admitted after the game too, that he can't really dribble. Otherwise, he turns the ball over. And when you have a sprained shoulder, that doesn't really help either. Like, especially if you need to dribble with the left hand, I'm sure that's affected. So good on Mike to do that. I think this is something he could have done even without being injured, but the injury might have like forced him that direction. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to see if he can keep that up. Because his step backs look like almost like clunky and slow, like those like little like laboring step backs, but
They're
he just
very
hits them.
Tatum-esque, actually.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're big guys, so
All right, let's go to the Jokic floater. So Harden gets screened by AG here, creating the driving lane for Jokic. Because I guess I don't remember how this possession was initiated, but Jamal gets Jokic the ball here, and AG kind of sets almost an exit screen for Jokic, but it creates this driving lane instead. He would have had the 3 otherwise. Maybe he drove because he's like, oh, Harden's trying to like jump out and contest. I'm gonna have Zubac's giving him all this space in drop. So that was nice to see. It was nice to see him make the floater. His floater's been good this year, right? We talked about it. He's shooting like 56% on that shot. But, in previous years, he's been like 62% plus. That, 6% makes a difference to how guys are going to guard you. So we needed to punish that drop coverage from Zubats. And it was nice to see him do that. But again, picking on Harden with off-ball screens. All right, let's go to the dunk that Peyton Watson did make. So in this possession, Kawhi comes up to help Harden on Jokic. And that's what gets Peyton open. But if you watch here, Jokic is Kawhi almost picks off the ball, but now Jokic knows, all right, they're coming for me. So he's playing with Ben Simmons here, looking at AG. Well, he goes to look at AG, and then look at the angle of this pass.
yeah, he's looking at AG. It's like a no-look pass where he's holding Ben Simmons with his eyes, and Ben Simmons even takes a step that way. But
this is almost like picking on Norm too, because he's got a foot ready to either contest the shot or whatever, but he's like, oh, I'm also guarding Jamal in the corner. I think he probably should have just taken Peyton there, especially after Jokic turns. But you never want to fully leave the guy in the corner, so I understand that too. But a lot of these possessions, our best offensive possessions, come from breakdowns off ball between Bogdanovich, Harden, and Norm on the perimeter. And I don't remember if we talked about this last game or last episode, but I do recall a couple of podcasts actually talking about how it would be more advantageous for Denver to try to involve Kawhi, Nico, whoever on the ball, so that they could try to pick on the weaker defenders off ball.
was it Lucas Kaplan who was talking about that?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. He did a great playback about on game 3 I watched, and he was breaking stuff like that down. So I was thinking about that watching a few of these possessions as well. Like, oh, are they actually doing that now? So that was cool. I will say though, in the third quarter and at the beginning of the fourth, when Peyton was playing a few minutes to start the fourth quarter, they were basically hiding Harden on Peyton. That's say that 3 times fast. Hiding Harden on Peyton. And Peyton's lack of finishing ability was definitely a problem. We weren't really involving him in the offense either. And like, again, I understand that too. So it was harder to take advantage of Harden either on or off the ball in those instances. So that's the other thing that comes with Peyton playing more minutes. And I know this is another thing that Matt Moore talked about in his series preview is like, well, MPJ can't really like punish guys on or off the ball. Like he's not as good of a cutter as like a Christian or whatever in this series. It just might not be his series because of he can't contribute as much on offense. And I'm like, Peyton's going to be like a much bigger negative on offense because they just won't respect him, but also will be able to hide guys on him. It's just...
And you almost think, so what? Peyton doesn't need to do that on offense as long as he's out there for defense, but it does affect our ability to attack and
the ability to defend if we're if his presence is causing like things to be clogged up and turnovers and all that kind of stuff, which means runouts on the other end. So that's going to be I'm interested to see how they try to use Peyton differently. I don't know about more because the way that the fourth quarter played out with the rotations, I'm very skeptical that we're going to be playing Peyton in particular more minutes, regardless of if rest plays or not.
Gonna have to ride these starters out.
Yeah.
Trying to just get this series, please.
12 minutes in game 4, and that was with Russ out.
You talked about earlier was playing the starters more and not going to more stagger bench minutes.
The stagger minutes were so bad.
It's just awful.
I get it. I can't even.
I don't want to see it. I want the starters to play all the minutes. I know it's impossible, but
it's also. I think there's also an element of this, and the reason that MPJ wants to play. Despite one of the more severe in postseason injuries that one can have and still play with, this could be their last series playing together.
Yeah,
for these guys, and so not just the minutes but playing it all. I think they're kind of like we're gonna lay it all out there, and that's how it's felt for 3 of 4 games in this series. Is that. It is a bit of a last dance situation. Oh my God, I'm like tearing up.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so let's talk about the fourth quarter that almost ended the season.
Yeah.
All right, so the Nuggets go up 22. They go up 20 before the fourth quarter, and then they make a couple buckets at the beginning of the fourth, get some stops, and push it to 22. The starters basically played the whole fourth quarter, with the exception of Jamal, who sat for the first 4 minutes. Those minutes were not good. Neither were the minutes after he came back, though, to be fair. We played a lot of prevent offense in the fourth quarter. I think way too early. You're only up 20. There were 10 minutes left in the game. I have this, I don't know if I've talked about this on the show before, but I have this threshold that I set, which is like, if your team is up 18 or more, and there's less than 7 minute mark, 18 or more points, and you're not the Golden State Warriors, you're going to win that game.
Yeah.
We never got to up 18 plus after that 7 minute mark, because it was just dwindling,
We were up by 22, but it was
right with way too much
10 minutes
time
or whatever.
All right, so we're playing prevent offense. They were confounded by the zone. They tried just draining clock. So I just want to go through all of these possessions basically and talk about the zone, because I applaud Ty Lue for trying this. What he did was go with Bogdanovich, Norman Powell, and Harden, 3-guard lineup, try to get some offense going, because the Nuggets were completely stifling the Clippers in this game. Chris Dunn wasn't making shots. Derek Jones Jr. wasn't making shots. Even Nico was missing finally. So I actually expect him to bounce back in game 5, which is really I don't want to think about it. I'm hoping he has like a Game 7 Justin Holiday type performance in Game 5 because he's kind
Isn't
of
it
Justin
weird
Holiday.
though that for a game where the role players of the Clippers didn't have their shot, it was at home versus away. Like you would expect the
Yeah.
away to be the, but they have so many options.
I
And
mean,
Bogdanovich
our role
still
players
had it.
haven't had their shots all series, so
Well, that's because the role players are not that good. But sorry.
I don't know. I think people overestimate the Clippers role players, to be fair. And we kind of saw that. Like, Bogey like had a great close to the regular season, and then really wasn't great in this series. And he made some plays at the end of this game, but it was kind of like he hasn't been a factor. But what Ty Lue did was play that 3-guard lineup and then be like, well, they're going to get fried if we try to play man-to-man. So we're just going to go 2-3 zone, kind of, and it turns into like a bit of a matchup zone. We'll talk about that with them and just try to like force some turnovers and, you know, do a thing and kind of hope they miss, which the Nuggets did. They definitely missed lots of shots against the zone. And they weren't aggressive was the other gamble here because
they weren't caring about trying to beat it.
They weren't trying to score. They were just like, let's just, you know, run out clock. All right. First possession here. We've got CB missing a driving layup. So this is a very active zone. That was my note on this possession. Christian needs to make this shot, number one.
Yeah, they're able to
he was very
Jokic.
nonchalant with this layup on second watch.
This is a shot you think CB definitely makes. His rim finishing has been so good.
Okay, Harden steps up, and then, yeah. And it's with his right hand and everything. And this is at the point where they had already cut it to... Well, it was 18 at this point. So not crazy. So maybe that's why he's so nonchalant with it. But this was the first one. And I wanted to include this possession, not because we did anything like bad, because it's good. Like, it's a very active zone. Jokic gets the ball into the open guy, and then Christian attacks the seams. And he gets a good look. Like, he should make that layup, right?
He kind of got...
But you've got MPJ runs in after Peyton runs in. Like, Harden isn't guarding anybody, so he's kind of standing there, kind of contesting, but not. And, yeah, Christian misses this.
He kind of jumped too far in under the hoop, and then he had to, like, try to get it up and over, and he just... This is an awkward angle for him. And
maybe it's like he's afraid of Zubac's contest.
I'm sure, yeah, he was thinking about that and trying to give him position to not get blocked. But, yeah, you don't expect it, but...
Okay, so next let's go to the Christian cut. So this was a good zone possession. I think he actually makes the shot here. You know, they come up, try to get the ball out of Jokic's hands. He's looking at MPJ. Same thing. No look. Gets to Christian with the cut. Christian's really important against the zone, and we know that from the NBA Finals because if you're not cutting, you're just taking outside shots.
Harden's like stunts up to where Mike would be to try to take away a pass to Mike, which I get because he was shooting well.
The thing is, like, Jokic no looks him. Again.
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
So this is like good orchestration from Jokic and all of that.
Zoo looks mad at Harden after this. He's like, what the heck, dude?
They should look at the film and be like, yeah, it's the thing. It's like, it's hard to... This is Harden getting picked on off ball again, to be fair. It's hard to stay disciplined and be like, no matter what, we're playing for the cut or the paint shot, whatever, when Jokic is looking at the guy in the corner. And it is MPJ, too. And he'd made shots in this game. All right, so then let's go to the asinine MPJ shot. I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? And then he takes like a 35-footer.
Yeah, well, let's see here.
No rhythm. I think he wanted to drive or try to create a passing angle to Jokic, and they just don't allow it. There's 7 seconds left on the clock. And he just pulls.
Mike's not known for logo threes.
No, he's not.
He's better with a toe on the 3-point line.
He's talked about how his jump shot form is not conducive to long shots. It's more like I get a lot of height, but I can't, like, it's not like a push form like a Dame or a Steph.
And he was short on it.
Yeah, and he was short on it, right? But also, like, it was a no rhythm shot. Like, nobody's moving. It's a very Like, I think he probably should have passed to Jamal there, but
Mike had a shot going, but that is a little bit far.
yeah.
But I guess, try to shoot your way out of the zone
That
is
was
the
kind
thing.
of
But
that was the beginning of it. We did get good shots against the zone after that possession. I would have liked more of the following shots to just go in because they were like, we get the ball to the open guy and he should make it. But I wish we could have attacked the seams more. So let's talk about these possessions. So the first one is AG. All right, we're getting the guy to open guy. Everybody's moving. They're in the right spots. AG gets an open three. He's been good. He misses. Okay.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, if you can start making the threes on the zone because you get open looks, then that could force them to stop doing it. And
Exactly.
AG can't hit him. He missed
And get bogey off the floor. Exactly. So then the next one is Jokic. Jamal attacks. They get the guy to a certain place. They get Zubats to, leave Jokic, go to the paint. Jokic
And
hits
Jokic
open
can
three. Jokic went
easily make
50%
that.
from three in this game, but he just missed this one. Like,
Yeah, he's not going to make them all. He could have made it.
so the next one is the Jokic midi. This was started off as his own possession, but the Clippers, it turns out, deep in the clock, they go back to man, and Jokic just attacks Zubats one-on-one, and he goes to this midi. There's still some time left in the clock for him to try to get a closer shot, but I think, again, at this point, they're up 15. So he's just like, let's just try to get a bucket here. There's not urgency yet, even though I'm like, it's 7 minutes and we're not at 18, guys. Like, we never got to that point. That's all I wanted.
It's not a horrible look either for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these missed shots were like good looks. I mean, maybe Jokic could have gotten a better one, but his jump shot was going in other clips in this game.
So the next one is a Christian jump shot. They are so confused on this possession. Like, they have no idea what to do. He's like, I want to try to get the ball to Jokic in the middle of the floor. So remember, the Heat played their zone the same way against us in the finals, where they played a zone, but then committed an additional man just to front Jokic in the middle of the floor, which meant
which Bogey's
two
doing
people
here.
were open. You got
Yeah.
MPJ, you've got AG. So Christian passes to, I think, AG here, and then he gets open. He relocates, gets open. He takes a good shot. Bogdan jumps out to contest, but like, it's not a good shot because it's a Christian three. But like, that's a shot that like a normal basketball team takes against this zone,
Yeah.
right? I wish he just passed MPJ there, but maybe he doesn't
And-
take the shot. Maybe he's able to get it back to Jokic.
Bogey was short closing out. Like, he wasn't selling out on that three. He was
Yeah.
still like there, but
That's what
I think
that's what you
he
do
wanted
against Christian,
CB to
because you
shoot.
don't want him to drive on you either. Especially Bogey. He's like, I'm not going to be able to stop this guy.
That was I liked that game from CB, to be honest. Like, I thought I liked
yeah. He went 1 of 7 from 3 and still ended up with 17 points.
Yeah, it was just the
And was-
3-point shot was
pretty
not
good
there.
defensively.
It can happen, but I liked everything else that he did.
He's shooting 16% from 3 in this series. Are we worried about that?
Not the time to be shooting 16% from 3.
I mean,
But he hit a huge one in game 1. It just hasn't been there.
yeah.
Yeah.
In overtime. So, is that the one? No, he did hit one more in this game. So, were those the 2 threes that he's hit in regulation in this series? So, okay. The next one is the Jamal midi. So, we finally started to make some shots here. So, we ran a double drag here with Jokic and AG for Jamal, and then he just gets the Harden switch, hits the midi. I did not think this was going in because Jamal had been bricking all game, and this is like one of the harder shots that he took.
Yeah, that was really
just an
tough
ISO
shot.
on Harden. Harden's not like a bad isolation defender either. He kind of stays with Jamal, but Jamal's able to create that space and then hits the shot. So I'm like, okay,
That
great.
is-
We made a bucket. Fine.
You just never know with Jamal. He's going to make those sometimes, but it looks horrible, and then it goes in.
All right, so next is the Jamal missed floater. I actually liked our process on this possession a lot more than the last few. So AG gets it to Jamal, and then Jamal attacks the seams. He's like, Harden's not going to stop me. It's a decent shot. Like, it's a floater. He attacks the seams, gets downhill. And because he does, he collapses the zone, and that's why Jokic is able to get this offensive rebound. Right? Like, no. And This is the other thing against this zone is we didn't offensive rebound as much as I think we should have because these guys aren't getting boxed out. We talked about this in our last pod that after game 1, the reason that the Nuggets were able to get so many offensive rebounds is because of how much doubling and trapping they were doing against Jamal and Jokic up top. And AG and Russ were able to offensive rebound on the backside of that. I think that we should have probably gotten a few more offensive rebounds against this zone in the fourth quarter. But yeah, again, like a lot of these are good shots. They're just like, I thought I was going to go back and find like, oh, our process was not ideal or we were just moving the ball around the perimeter. Not necessarily. Like there were a few of those possessions, but for the most part, it was pretty good.
A lot of those could have been made, and then zone's
this game
not
is
looking
over.
so hot.
Yeah. So then we get to the Jamal 3, and he like finally makes a 3 in this game.
Big one.
AG picks off the pass. Jokic was going to make that, but either way, Jamal gets the open shot, and he actually makes it here. But this is good process. This is good process against the zone. And get Jamal open. MPJ was also like open. Norm had not caught up to him moving off ball. But I liked how everybody was kind of moving with the zone on that possession. Because this is like we talked about how this is kind of an amoeba. It's a very active zone. So the offense needs to also be as active, moving around to constantly be spacing properly and all of that. And I thought we did a good job of that to be...
Someone's just got to finally hit the open shot, and Jamal did.
Yeah. All right, so the next one... All right, same thing. So here they switch. We end up running a pick and roll with Jamal and AG kind of slips. Bogey actually does a good job of preventing the slip because they're switching here. AG should be able to slip, but Bogey like just kind of holds him. Would be a foul in the regular season, but whatever. And, prevents AG from getting there on the roll. And then Zubats, I think, blocks this. We get the offense. Because they switch, again, we get the offensive rebound. Is a Christian Brown 3? We're not loving this. We're also not loving that the other Christian Brown 3 was the end of the possession for... Now the game is within 4 points. This isn't 15 points. We're just trying to like get a good shot and get... Like we need a bucket. So I would have liked a different something on the reset on that possession. But also like we talked all year about how we need Christian to step into these shots with confidence. And he actually is... in this game. I think he probably struggled to in like the first 2 games of this series, but he did in this game, and he took 7 threes. He doesn't get there if he's hesitating.
It's easy to say in hindsight since we won.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy CB was taking them. Hopefully it's good for his just mental confidence, even though he missed a ton, so I don't know how he's feeling right now. But you can't let it affect you. You got to keep shooting, and he can make threes. He shot well over the season. It's just not consistent enough yet. I hope he doesn't stop and it still works out in our favor this series. But yeah, that one didn't go. And I think like AG thought Jamal had the switch on Zoo, so it was a good matchup for him. And I don't know if Jamal just went to that 3 and got blocked because Zoo is better on defense than most people expect even. So
yeah, Jamal's not a good isolation player either. So I was just kind of like, what are we doing? The other thing with that possession, if we could just go back to that clip. They put Kawhi on Jokic. That's what I thought. And you see Jokic like signaling to the ref, like he just held him. He's like, hey. Or no, he thinks he should have gotten a foul because Bogey fouls Jamal probably here. I don't know. This is like, whatever.
Physical game.
I liked the process, but I didn't like the process. I didn't love it. And it's because they keep the ball out of Jokic's hands once again in this possession. And that's the thing with all of these possessions is like the process for the most part wasn't bad, but Jokic isn't touching the ball on more than half of these possessions. To be fair, on the ones that he does, they immediately trap him. They force some turnovers in this stretch, and you don't want to cause runouts. And we're, again, still trying to just get good shots. But once the game gets to within 4 points after you were up 22, I think that's when you need to be more aggressive about, like, we need to get Jokic the ball here. And this is the the complication when the best player on your team is a big and isn't an on-ball shot creator, right? Like the Lakers are never worried about getting Luka the ball. He's not as efficient as Jokic. He's not necessarily as good of a game manager as Jokic. But they're never worried about getting him the ball. We're just like this like basic thing we're kind of stressing over. And it's one way that teams can try to take him out of the game. So I think that they need to be more intentional about that for sure. It doesn't help that we don't have like great passers in the starting lineup.
Because Jamal could have even hit Jokic on that floater.
He could have hit Jokic on that floater for sure. Russ probably hits Jokic there because Russ doesn't really like try a floater. That's the other thing with this game is just having one ball handler on the team was really tough against this Clippers defense.
Do you see the zone being something that the Clippers are going to try more? Because I'm sure the Nuggets are going to be like, damn, what were you going to, let's make sure we know what we're going to do if they're going to do that again. But I don't want that to be a huge distraction.
Yeah.
And something that they're like focusing on.
My thing is I never thought that Ty Lue thought that the zone would be as effective as it was defensively.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, let's go to it.
I think he's like, we have to go to this because I'm playing this 3-guard lineup and it's going to get eaten alive in man-to-man. So
it's the only way to keep him on the floor and like get some offense.
And it just happened to work defensively. I think he was just like, let's just try to get some threes going. I think one of the things, the podcast, by the way, that I got the Harden like off ball screening info from is Clips and Dip, great Clippers fan podcast. They were like, maybe Ty Lue was probably just trying to get like Norm and Bogey out there to like up their confidence. Like he didn't think they'd actually get close this game, but it was just like, let's try to figure some things out. The same reason that we always put our starters out in the fourth, besides punishment for the fans and the players, to try to get something going offensively and try to, work some things out since, it's like we're here, so we may as well. All right. So the last thing I've got on the zone is Jamal versus Traps. We've got the Kawhi steal here.
Damn, that
Jamal
was
tries to go behind the back to Jokic, and I guess that's what he tries to do because he sees Kawhi leaving Jokic.
Well, I mean, Jamal's got his head down here. Bogey's bothering him quite a bit, and then he looks up at the last second. He's like,
oh shit, and then tries to go behind the back, but it's too late because Kawhi's got like a 7'2" wingspan.
That was just a very aggressive play by Kawhi.
So at this point in the game, by the way, the Clippers are back to man-to-man, but they've got Kawhi on Jokic. They trap, they get the ball out of Jamal's. He was not great in traps in this game. There's another possession. I didn't include the clip. Maybe we could add it after. Jamal is trapped behind the 3-point line. They're rotated over to Jokic already. And then Christian tries to cut from the wing. But Jamal thinks he's still standing on the wing because he's not looking. So I blame both Christian and Jamal for that possession. Because then Jamal throws it out of bounds trying to throw it to where he thought Christian was standing on the wing. And that was another example of like, Christian, just stay in your position at the end of these games. That was tough because that was another like late game, like ungodly turnover. And that would have been what we were looking at if they'd lost this game. And it is what we're looking at now. All right, finally, let's get to the Clippers offense. I think we have to talk about how the Clippers were able to score 34 points in the fourth quarter here. I think maybe their best offensive quarter of the series besides the first quarter of game one. Harden was both scoring and diming. And the reason I include the following clips is because we were finally forcing Harden right. And he was killing us. Right? Like he was great in game one, all this stuff. Like he was getting to his left, getting to his layups, also passing and doing all this stuff. But Harden had 4 of his 11 assists in the game in the fourth quarter, which, maybe that's not as uneven a distribution as I thought. But he was playmaking like crazy in this fourth and also had some good scoring opportunities as we were forcing him right. So, okay, first clip, he has this and one runner over Jokic. Christian finally forces Harden right in this series, and Harden hits an and one runner. I think he switches to his left hand to get this shot off, which is actually what makes it like more difficult. Yeah, because Jokic gets him on the left arm there, trying to strip the ball. And it's tough because, like, Harden's a lefty. Like, this is what I've been wanting Christian to do all series, but then obviously this happens. All right, the next one, he hits behind the back pass to Zubac, again with his right hand, and Zubac hits the floater.
Yeah.
Which
like... Zoo's been making those over-the-top shots in the paint still pretty well. Like, he's decent at it, but it's a shot that...
Uncontested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I would, hope he misses that, and then rebound.
Yeah, but, like, I was kind of like, okay, you know what? Maybe forcing Harden, there was some method to the madness of forcing Harden left because he's getting his left, it's his dominant hand, he's trying to score. But the passing, like, okay, let's go to the kick out to Norm. So Harden here, Jamal forcing him right, and switches to the left hand to get this kick out to Norm. I don't know if there's like a difference in the mindset that we have when we're like, okay, we're forcing Harden right, everything's fine, everybody relaxes. Christian actually pinches in to try to help on Zubac. Like, we talked about this in the series preview where Peyton had done the same thing. It's too long of a rotation for AG to try to get to the corner there. And
that was the shot we were saying we do not want to live with.
Yeah.
And there it was right there.
There it was in, a fourth quarter of a do or die game. Okay. And then the last kind of like death knell here was this put back from Bogey. He takes the ball. I thought he took it from Jokic, but he just kind of like, Jokic didn't really hadn't secured it, and then Bogey got it. Here, because MPJ has to help on Zubac, nobody's boxing out Bogey. He gets a free lane to just swing in and get this rebound. And then that's when the Clippers took the lead. I was like, oh God, this is the end.
So scary.
This is death. From here, Jokic made a free throw to tie the game, and then we got to stop on the other end. This possession was such good defense from Zubac. Look how much Jokic has to work to hit this sombor over him, but then he just makes that shot, and I'm just like, are we actually going to do it?
Zoo's reaction, too, when he hit the shot.
It was very LeBron.
He's just like, oh, God, like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
I love this.
So it was beautiful. Beautiful play from Jokic in the clutch. Oh, my God.
Next possession, Harden gets left and then misses the layup, but then Zubac gets the tip in because Peyton wasn't there to box out. We had Peyton in for defense. We had taken MPJ out, so it was just like, all right, bro. I actually thought because like he wasn't boxing out, but he was close. I thought Peyton had tipped it in. I was like, oh God.
Oh yeah, I almost thought that too, but it was just the angle. Yeah.
Why is this happening? All right, so let's get to the biggest play of the game. So the game-winning putback. 8 seconds left. Game is tied. Jokic hits whatever. It doesn't hit whatever. Airballs it. And then AG gets his putback. Now, what's going through Jokic's head here as he's like, we're not really getting anything on this possession. We're probably going to overtime after blowing a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter of this playoff game. But let's just try some bullshit.
I am very surprised that was the shot he went for, and he said in the post game.
We took a timeout to draw up that play, just like we drew it up, right? That was the.
He said like what was going through his head. He was like, "This is gonna be bad."
Yeah,
and it's just like, I'm not trying to knock Jokic or anything because it worked out, but yeah, if he missed that and we went to overtime and lost, we all would have been like, "Why was that the shot that we went to?" And it's not Jokic's fault. Like, we probably should have gone for a better look. He can make those for sure.
Those are the kinds of shots that make you forgive a coach for not taking a timeout down 3. Because you're like, is this what we're going to get anyway? So here's the thing with that possession, though. Kawhi and Zubats involved at the top on Jokic. And yeah, so Kawhi goes to kind of double there. Leaves Jamal. Bogey rotates to Jamal. And AG's left alone. On the back to get a free
Harden's kind of
offensive
boxing
rebound.
out Christian Brown, but he can't jump back. And AG, even with his bad calf, is going to jump higher than either
but
of
I can
them.
jump for this one.
Gets the dunk.
And it was the closest game-winning dunk in NBA history, like the first buzzer beater where no time was left on the clock. Like it was the closest possible thing. We rated for the feels like that replay took forever because they had to call Secaucus to confirm and all of that.
Like, I mean, I'm glad
they called it good on the floor because I don't know that the there was enough evidence on the video to call it to overturn the call on the floor.
The NBA put out a really clear image that showed that it was
but
good.
It's like it was literally like one freeze frame, his hands are on the ball, no lights are up for the buzzer. Next freeze frame, his fingertips are just off the ball, the buzzer lights are on. So
it's simultaneous, and it's
it's the limitations of the video technology that they have. But somewhere in between there, the buzzer came on and the fingers were either on or off. We don't have that, like nanosecond in time.
To me, that makes it clear that it was a good bucket. In the moment,
or that they can't overturn it. That's
But when I saw it happen live, I was very skeptical just because it's a Clippers home game. Do you really want to send the Clippers out with a loss off of something that's so hard to tell? I do think, though, there was enough for the refs to be like...
Right, because if they call it good on the floor, they can't overturn it with what we had.
But I think it's almost crazy they called it good on the floor. Like, because it was so hard to tell live.
I thought they didn't call it good on the floor. So that was pretty, huge.
But you may as well call it good so that you can review it. I don't know if that was their mindset.
I think you can review it either way. I think it gets reviewed either way, but thank the heavens for whichever ref called it good on the floor.
I mean, we haven't really talked specifically about Aaron Gordon in this game. It wasn't like a super high scoring game for him.
I thought he was everywhere, though. He was really impactful defensively. We were a lot more aggressive on Kawhi in this game. We talked about how we didn't want them to overreact after Kawhi's game 2. Especially game 3, Kawhi's not the one that killed us in game 3 either. I actually thought it was our lazy doubles and leaving shooters open. And just in every aspect, we failed in every aspect of defense in game 3. But in this game, it was very aggressive doubling, very aggressive help in the gaps. We forced a few more turnovers. He still only had 2, but we were getting a lot of deflections and we were just disrupting their offense. It felt like. And he wasn't getting easy shots over Jamal anymore. I can't even remember them successfully picking on Jamal in isolation in this game. So we were basically doing what they do with Harden, which is no, we're not gonna just let you get comfortable attacking this guy in a simple way. So we did a lot. I think AG was really important in protecting Jamal, and then obviously offensively, we talked about some of the ways that he helped us. Picking Harden. He
had a 20-plus point game in game 1. This one, I think he had 14 points. So, from that aspect, it wasn't as eye-popping. But to have that moment, get a buzzer-beating dunk, I'm just so happy for him. Because he's just, he is the soul of the team, as Jokic has said. And for him to have that moment and to see the guys all happy and Russ shaking, doing this handshake with AG after that, and everyone's so hyped, really hoping it doesn't make us complacent because, you're going to go on a high like that. You got to really lock in now because job's really not done at all.
Yeah.
The Clippers I'm hoping they're going to be like despondent after like losing that way, but I could see them easily like being
This
so
team is not.
pissed.
They don't have as much quit in them as previous years. One of the things with the title run, I felt like each series, except the Wolves in round one, it felt like they got at least one game spotted to them from the other team giving up because they
Yeah.
were like scared of the Nuggets. They don't have that game spotted to them anymore.
No, yeah, we've had to really take every game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this Clippers team is not the kind of team that I think the Suns spotted them 2 games actually, to be fair, in that series. Just funny that it went to 6 in 2023. But I don't expect the Clippers to give up. I think they know, like, especially from that game 3 and the fact that we had to play our starters in game 4 so much, and the fact that they came back, like they have a lot of confidence, I think, coming out of that game as well. So I do expect game 5 to be another rock fight.
Yeah.
Assuming that Denver doesn't come out sad like they did in game 3.
I don't think they will.
We still
I
don't
think
know
both teams will
if,
give good effort.
yeah. We still don't know if Russ is going to play in game 5. Yeah.
Don't know if
So,
MPJ is, but there's been no news either way on if a suspension's even looming or being considered.
we need MPJ in this series. I think that is evident from the lack of players. It's evident from the fact that MPJ had to play 42 minutes last game in regulation. Predictions for games 5, 6, and 7. So I want to know not just like the outcome of the series, if your idea has changed. It seems like it hasn't. Like you're still saying Nuggets in 7. But is there anything that you're expecting to see from certain players from either team?
I'm trying to expect the fact that Jokic is going to be as forceful in imposing his impact on the game as he was in game 4, but playing a lot of minutes and like putting in that effort. And we saw him have kind of a letdown game in game 6 of the Wolves series last year, which we already mentioned. So I could see him kind of like falling back a bit, as much as I want to believe he's going to be like how he was in the last game, because that's what we're going to need, I think, to win the series. Is I think Jokic is going to have to do that in at least 2 more games.
He doesn't necessarily have to be that third quarter Jokic like the whole time, but we really hadn't seen that from him all series. So it would be nice to get like another. I feel like if he's like that again for a whole game, then we get that game, and then one more I think has to come from Jamal. He has not been good as a scorer in our victories, as we as we talked about. He's been terrible as a scorer in our victories, and like okay as a scorer in our losses. So I think a really good Jamal game coupled with everybody playing defense finally is that way to get to a comfortable win.
I expect them to be playing high minutes as well.
It definitely do. So it's tough. And I do think that the battle of attrition, though, like we that's the way that we framed this series in our last episode. It's not like it's all one-sided. The Clippers do have more bodies, but their best players are old. Their role players are old. Like Nicholas Batum is 36, right? And so is Russ, but Russ is Russ. Never runs out of energy. It's just the question of whether he's going to play or not. Our players are all 30 or less. That's allowing us to have these like stronger defensive starts to these games. We're pressuring full court a lot more. Having more bodies would definitely help. Peyton being better would help for sure. But
God, if he could just make some threes, like just
just like make
something.
some layups. I'm not talking like just make
That's
the
fine
shots
too,
that are given to you, because he's not
imagine
getting a
how-
lot of threes in this series. But
Yeah, like maybe we'll
if
never
he could
look
just
for it, but
not smoke everything in transition, it would be like really helpful actually.
we're definitely more banged up though, is the issue for sure. Just objectively,
Because of MPJ,
At least as
because
far
of
as I know.
AG. I don't know if Jamal is 100% yet from his hamstring, but nobody's fully healthy at this point in the season. Like, who knows where Kawhi is, like, with his knee and whatever. Like, I think Clippers fans are just happy
He
to
looks
see him
pretty
playing at this point. And, Harden, like, he wears down at the end of the year after having to really carry a really lackluster offense for an entire season while Kawhi was out. And like, to me, Harden's been pretty clearly their best player in this series. Kawhi had the game too, but outside of that, Harden is the guy that's initiating everything and creating offense for everyone, Kawhi included.
I kind of expect
Yeah.
to see Kawhi try to do the game 2 takeover again.
I do expect to see him try, but I think because of the way that we're defending him now, because we're trying to avoid that so dearly, it won't necessarily look like that. I'm just worried about if we try to do that again, it looks like game 3 where we're like doubling every time, but like the rotations aren't there and
Yeah.
we're not closing out to shooters and guys just make shots. That could kill us. So that could be the way that the takeover manifests. But I don't think we're going to get another game that necessarily looks like game 2. Not just because it's the 7th most efficient 35 plus point
Yeah.
playoff game in NBA history. But because I think the Nuggets are trying to avoid that actively. I don't want them to overreact, though, because I do think that we can survive another game like that. Because the Clippers only scored like
Yeah. We
100
almost won
points
that.
in that game. 103 points, actually. Well, if you are still around, thank you so much for listening to this point. We hope that this was a useful breakdown of the Nuggets Clippers series. I think it's been a way more interesting series than I thought it would be. And that is in large part because the Denver Nuggets are actually playing defense in this series, contrary to what I thought would happen. If you like our content, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and leave us a review. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music, as you probably know from listening to us on one of those platforms, wherever you find your podcasts. And we're also on Instagram and TikTok. All our social links are in the description. Use it to keep up with the show and never miss an episode. And always remember, Will, winning is fun and losing sucks.
2 more wins.
2 more wins.